Hello and welcome to another week of the All Sports Betting Podcast Cricket World Cup previews. Just to start off by saying a decent enough Sunday again from us. Some winning bets. Just Australia didn't deliver the goods, but the rest of our picks certainly did very well on Sunday, and we keep knocking over, churning out a bit of profit bit by bit the last few days. We're still waiting for that really, really big day, but it's got to keep knocking them up, really, haven't you? The profit, that is. It's unfortunately though, this week is the weather forecast is so bad for the UK that it's going to be difficult, isn't it, to get matches complete. So our previews will not be given the 36 hours that we've been doing for most of them, because the simple fact is we need to know what the weather forecast is, and the closer to the day, and the more accurate it can be. It's still probably going to be way off, but we've got to give ourselves the best possible chance. And so certainly until Saturday, where it looks a little bit more settled, then we will be doing these previews a little bit more short notice, but hopefully for the better. Not a great week of weather forecasted, Kev, sadly.
No, that's right, Steve. I think the first thing that we should say is if people subscribe to all of our channels, they're going to get instant notification of when we do record these podcasts, so that they don't miss out on any of the action that we do put up. You're right. There's a jet stream going through the UK, isn't there, that's going to wipe out much of this week. But they promise much better weather on the other side of it, don't they? So I can live with 3 or 4 games being taken out of the agenda in a lengthy tournament like this, rather than say 10 or 12 of them being rain affected with constant showers and things. I can live with it this way round.
We've got West Indies against South Africa down at the Ageas Bowl, Southampton. I've took a look at this forecast. There's going to be rain. That's the one thing we can say for certainty at some point during the day. We don't know exactly when, how heavy, what intervals. It's not like a massive blanket of rain like Bristol last week, where it was just so obvious there probably wasn't going to be any play. I think here we're going to get intervals where there's breaks in the cloud, but equally it might just be so heavy that they're on off that very little play is done. Ultimately, we just don't know for sure in that regard. But we've got some picks for the game for those who just want to get on them now. West Indies to win, 4 points, 4 unit bet365. Chris Morris, top South Africa batsman, just a small 1 unit punt there, 25-1 at Coral, and 2 performance bets at Bet365. Rabada over 39.5 and Sheldon Cottrell over 28.5. Both of those at Bet365. Both of those worth 4 points each. So South Africa, West Indies. Let's just take the weather out of consideration for now. How these two teams match up to each other. West Indies give a good account of themselves so far. South Africa in a real mess. Such a mess that AB de Villiers has been in the news recently. We talked about this in the weekend podcast about him offering to come back to the team. Are they in that much dire straits that they need someone like that?
Oh, they need him, Steve. Yeah, absolutely. But they've needed him ever since he quit, and he hasn't come back. He didn't come back prior to that, did he? Fair play to Otis Gibson for standing his ground. I think he said in the lead up to this game that he offered the door was open for AB de Villiers right up to the 31st of December. And there was no sign of a turnaround. And then all of a sudden we're on the eve of a World Cup and he offers his services again. You just can't do that, as we said the other day. It's no good for South Africa cricket. What's going to happen after the World Cup? He quits again and then he wants to come back again down the line. I mean, it's no use to anyone. Yes, they need him, but they don't need him above their future, really. They'll live without AB de Villiers. They won't do it in this tournament. But a struggle in this tournament might only fuel the fire for ones to come.
3 defeats in a row. They've lost to England, they've lost to India, so that's 2 of the big sides in this competition. Maybe you could even say, can they be excused a little bit for that? Have they just faced 2 really good sides? 3 good sides so far?
Yeah, they have, haven't they? But it's not necessarily what you lose, it's how you lose it. 2 of the games they've been, rolled over for 200 and 240. That's not going to win any game of cricket in ODIs at this level unless you're playing against Afghanistan or someone like that. And even the score that they put up at the Oval never really threatened the run chase, did it? And as we've seen in the games either side of that, it was only a pass score anyway, if indeed it was that. So, we've waxed lyrical ever since we returned with these podcasts about South Africa being light with the bat. Continues to ring true. Their three top scorers, or three of their higher scorers in the last game, were Pekla Kwayo, Chris Morris and Kagiso Rabada, who were effectively in there for their bowling rather than their batting. Hashim Amla clearly got spooked by that banter that he got caned with in the first game against England. He doesn't look a shadow of the batsman that usually comes into this country and bats. Quinton de Kock has looked okay. Faf du Plessis looked okay, and the new fella Van der Dussen has looked okay, but no one else from a batting point of view has offered anything apart from these all-rounders. So they've got that problem. They're running out of bowlers, aren't they? And Geedy and Stain have come and gone. They've recalled Hendricks, but he wasn't nowhere near the squad before these injuries. And South Africa don't play knockout cricket very well, do they? And they're about to embark on a 6-game run of knockout cricket, so it doesn't bode well, does it?
They're going to, South Africa do prefer pace bowlers, so they're going to get a lot of that with the West Indies, aren't they? So that at least should be a positive, or is it? Because the West Indies bowlers are bowling very well right now.
Well, they're hostile, aren't they? That's the big thing about them. And as I just said, Hashim Amla got cleaned up by Jofra Archer in the first game. So, you've got to think that he's going to be showing a few nerves when the ball's whistling around his logos in this game. And to be fair, they can all play off the back foot, can't they, the South Africans? But the simple fact is, as I've said all along, there isn't enough batting. It's not necessarily what form they're in. Even if they're all in great form, it's still a light lineup. It still runs out at 6 as a genuine batting lineup. And there isn't really anyone there that's going to take a game away from an opposition, is there? Quinton de Kock, maybe, but certainly no one in the AB de Villiers mould, or if we look at Sunday's game, Hardik Pandya, there isn't one of them in that side to make up that batting. So, I know Chris Morris can give the ball a good biff, but he's nowhere near. He's not going to come off anywhere near as much as, say, Pandya, or if you look at England, as Jos Buttler or Moeen Ali, those kind of players down the order. So, there just simply isn't enough South African batting.
All right, well, you're going to back the West Indies to win this game at even money. Incredibly, they're actually underdogs here, which is, I think it's a big surprise considering what's been going on. I would have the West Indies as favourites myself here. I'm sure you'd absolutely back them if it was, going to be a hot, sunny day, guaranteed 50 overs aside. I think we've got to presume there's going to be reduced overs if there is a result. Don't know how many reduced, but probably maximum maybe 30, 35 each. And really, like you said in your preview on your website, that this plays into the West Indies' hands, a reduced overs game, doesn't it? Even more.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the T20 World Champions. They'll defend their title next winter, 2020. And I think I said it in the podcast that we did for the West Indies Australia game, didn't I? That the West Indies bowlers are going to be hostile and fiery in their first spell, but what have they got in their second, third, and fourth spells? Well, we actually saw against Australia there isn't an awful lot in those second, third, and fourth spells. Smith and Coulter-Nile looked pretty at ease, didn't they? When they'd seen off those fiery first spells. And if the game's reduced to a minimum game, for example, a minimum game in this competition is 20 overs aside, they're only going to bowl one spell, aren't they? Or if they bowl 2 spells, it'll be 2 overs each. So, there's no need to ease up. There's no need to, save energy for coming back, 25, 30 overs or an hour, 2 hours down the line. It's just rat-a-tat straight into it. And on the flip side of that, when they bat, there's no need to ease up, is there? They know they're not going to get bowled out in 20. So they can swing from the hip right from the start, which, suits them perfectly. It's the way they play, isn't it? It's when they have to think about getting caught in between. Do they go? Do they stay? And they did that at times against Australia, didn't they? They lost a couple of wickets, not knowing whether to stick or twist. That's when their downfall comes. But when they've got it in front of them, what they need to do, and if the game is reduced to 20, 25 overs, then they'll have that. That's when we're likely to see them bat at their very best.
Okay, so West Indies to win the game, even money. Pretty straightforward bet, that one. Doesn't matter if, if there are reduced overs, if there's a result, that bet will stand whatever. So on to your smaller pick for the game, Chris Morris, top South Africa batsman. I don't know the exact rules and regulations here. I mean, one thing I will say, if you're betting on this game, whatever bookmaker, really check the regulations seriously, whatever market you're in, because every bookmaker is very unique with how they approach it. I mean, I'm going to talk about this with the player performances in a minute, but some are very quirky. So I don't know what the actual rules are with Coral. I presume it just needs to be a completed innings as such for this bet to actually stand. But Chris Morris, worth a shot at 25-1, top South Africa batsman.
Yeah, exactly that, Steve. A completed innings. Obviously, if say the game starts as a 40 over game and then it's reduced to sort of 28, and Chris Morris doesn't bat, you will get your money back. Unless he's out. If he's out, then you'll lose your dough. But if he doesn't bat, you'll get your money back. But yeah, completed innings and it stands. I mean, he's just top scored against India, hasn't he? For South Africa, he bats in exactly the same position as Nathan Coulter-Nile, who's just top scored for Australia against the West Indies. Doesn't really need to drag on too much with that one. He's 25-1 in a batting lineup that's got 6 batsmen, 3 of which are not in form: Duminy, Miller, Amla, and another 1 or 2 could be hit or miss, just based on the way that they play. Every chance he's going to come in and not be going up against a lot, and he'll have the freedom to get on the front foot and give it some Reggie Biffington right from the start, when he in a shortened overs game, which is how he plays. Everything plays into his hands, really. 25-1. Yes, I'd like it being a dry, sunny day, so it would guaranteed he'd bat. We haven't got that luxury, but we've still got a nice price. Yeah,
well worth a go there. And there's 2 player performances that I'm going to take here. Rabada over 39.5 and Cottrell over 28.5, both at Bet365. 20 points for a wicket, 10 points for a catch, 1 point for a run. And basically, I just think they're almost a free hit, really. Actually, if you look at the rules and regulations for player performances at 365. But in one-day matches, both teams must face at least 40 overs each. Otherwise, the bets are void unless settlement of bets is already determined. So basically, if there's really no point betting unders here at all in some respects, because you've got to be at least 40 overs each for you to have a chance of actually winning. I'd imagine there'd be a lot of voids in that, but you could have 1 hour of play. Someone could get their points in that hour. If they go on your over, you've won. That's it, in the bag. The rest of the match could be rained off. And so that's why I've targeted 2 opening bowlers, because at some point there will be play out there. Someone's going to be bowling, even if it's for a smaller length of time. And with Cottrell, all you need is a caught and bowled, and Bob's your uncle. The over's in. And Rabada, just a couple of wickets, which is quite possible there. I'm not saying I absolutely fancy both to deliver, but both have been bowling pretty well to back me up here. Certainly Cottrell. Rabada's looked pretty sharp. Why not on a tough-looking day? I don't think anyone batting out there is going to be enjoying it particularly. So I just see it as a free hit, because I'll be very, very surprised if this is a 40 overs game each, to be honest with you. So if you don't get your points, then the bet will be void in that particular time. So you could also have a go at the openers batting if you wanted. Gale, De Kock are priced up, but they're pretty high lines, 53 and 41. But they're almost, again, a bet to nothing unless the match is extended to 40 overs each. There's always a risk of that, but I just don't see it myself. Look at the forecast.
No, it's fair enough. 2 good shouts, 2 good bits of reasoning, and of course, if it is a 40 over game, then they're going to have more overs to bowl, aren't they? So like you say, you can't really lose on that one. Yeah.
If the match is 40 overs each, you've got every chance of them winning. That's the caveat. If you are taking some other performers just for the sake of it that you wouldn't normally fancy, then it's a bit more dubious, isn't it? But be very careful where you're betting at, because the rules are different. Certainly at Betfair for their performances, The rules are different there. 888 Sports a bit different. Betway is very similar to 365. A little bit more vague with their explanations, but it looks like they need at least 80% of at least one innings to come in. But the same thing applies if you've gone on the over and those points are in. Doesn't matter what happens to the match after that. You are going to get paid out if they get their points in time. So you're much better off being on overs than unders. More chance of getting paid out in these reduced overs games. But yeah, let's hope we can have. I hope there is some play. 20-20 Bosch or something each way, and it's a sort of game you've got to look to profit in any way you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there will be play. Yeah, there's a few breaks in the clouds, isn't there? I mean, it's meant to be a windy day, isn't it? So any showers that are there will brush through. I mentioned that rain tends to miss the oval and goes down the river on Sunday, which is exactly what it did. Unfortunately, Southampton, the Rose Bowl or Ageas Bowl or whatever bowl they're naming it for this tournament, is stuck in the middle of a load of trees and things, so it does tend to attract the rain. So we're not going to escape it here, but if the wind pushes it through quickly, I'm sure the umpires will be on the ball, and obviously South Africa won't want to dwell on their laurels because a rained off game here does them absolutely no good whatsoever. So yeah, I think we'll see some play. Hopefully we'll see enough play for a 20 over game at the very worst, and yeah, 4 decent bets there, and let's look to extend the 4 consecutive days of profit that we've
Absolutely. Yeah, well, let's say we look forward to. Well, we don't really look forward to this week as much because the forecast is so bad, but it doesn't mean we can't profit one way or the other. You will find the best selections. We are ahead of the bookmakers, ahead of the 8 ball, as you might say. Yeah, let's hope we have a good game, and we'll catch you for Tuesday's preview, Kev.
Cheers, Steve. See you Tuesday.
See ya.